Live Studios in Frisco, Texas. We're going to move into tonight's lineup, and in our second match, we got a pretty good one. We got Muzzy versus Kranich. That matchup, I expect these guys to be all over the place and playing some pretty funky cards back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, Muzzy really been all over the place with his strategies, and Kranich, kind of a wild card so far. We've been seeing him, stick to his guns a little bit more. And that's actually been working out pretty well for him. But, this match is going to be very interesting to see exactly how these players hone their strategies. Yeah, and in their third match tonight, we're going to have Ek0p come back. And, ooh, he's got a big test in front of him tonight. Yeah, I mean, Ek0p moved up to 3-4 in that last game here. Dog, though, he's at 5-1 right now. He just lost his first match to Jab last week, who moved up to the first player to 6 wins in HPL. But really looking forward to see how Dog bounces back from that single loss. Yeah, but our first match of the night, one we're going to get into right now, is Ek0p versus Zalae. When I want to talk about with these two guys, I want to focus on blowback when it comes to this match, because it's pretty interesting how these two players kind of, stack up when it comes to it. I'm going to talk about Ek0p first. Now, he's coming in at 1-4 and needs to kind of turn things around a little bit. He has the lowest average blowback score of any player here in HPL at 2.3. Now, out of the 22 games he's played here in HPL, that blowback score, it's been 0 in 16 of them. So you can see that he's either avoiding leveraging his life total, or he's not finding places to do so. Now, what's interesting is that in all of his recorded games with blowback, it's when he's playing Warlock. Now, he's 4-2 with the class so far here in HPL, and that's by far his best overall score. So his career win percentage rate with Warlock is over 68%. So I'd like to see some more Warlock out of Ek0p. Maybe he's fearing being a little targeted. Yeah, I mean, Warlock's always been a big talking point for him in his career. He mentioned in one of his interviews how much he loves Warlock. But sort of looking at Ek0p, in here in HPL, he's got to turn around the back 2/3 of this season. He's been playing competitive TCGs for a very long time now. He comes actually mostly from a WoW TCG background, where in 2009 he was Player of the Year. But the fact that he's kind of typically been a little bit of an emotional guy, and kind of with this season's tension really growing on his record, he really cannot let that get to him. He's got to kind of go back to where his roots were and use that to move forward. His strategies have been back and forth, which is odd given, again, that he mentioned that class mastery was such an important facet of the game. Said that mastering a single class and spending a lot of time with it was how you get good at something and how you actually win this game. When you look at his Warlock win rate, that's something that's unbelievable to me, is that he's not playing Warlock over and over again. I like that Ek0p is staying unpredictable, but again, he's got to get something rolling. I really want to see him go back and rediscover the strategies that were making him such a dangerous player to begin with. Abuse that. At the end of the day, the wins are what matters. I guarantee you Ek0p likes winning, but he hates losing. With the whole weekend to prepare for this match, I'd really expect to see a more focused game from him, because again, with that record dwelling on his mind, it's something that you really want to turn around being a professional player. Yeah, he really needs to focus, because his opponent is a very good professional in Zalae. Now, when we take a look at Zalae, he's coming in at 3-3 in this match. Now, he has a pretty average blowback score of 6.9. Now, that's a little bit better than average, actually. It's 3rd highest in HPL. Now, right now, the only classes he plays are ones that can really leverage their life total. He's been steering clear of things like Priest, Mage, and Shaman, and honestly, I think everyone's been steering clear of Shaman. Now, he has been sticking to what he believes are just the best strategies here in all of Hearthstone. He has shown a lot of patience in his game when choosing to use that life total as a resource, and he's showing great understanding of when and how to best use that advantage. Now, oftentimes, he waits multiple turns to make sure he gets maximum value out of his weapons. I remember in a game when he was playing Rogue, he made a 3-power dagger on turn 4 and didn't use it till turn 8 and then killed someone with it. Yeah, always been very patient. Zalae continues to be very logical and very thought out in his matches so far. He split those matches, by the way, and to me, he sort of feels like he's been much more focused, just as you said, on playing what he believes are the best strategies. Really playing the board. Hasn't been playing the man much, I would say. Really not taking into account his opponents very closely in his interviews. In his matches. He even said in one of his interviews that he's got some more plans in his back pocket, but I'm curious exactly what those are. Playing the best on-paper strategies consistently and very well, that will give you an edge in Hearthstone. That's not a big mystery. But that's why they're widely considered the best strategies in Hearthstone. But is that going to give you the best win rate possible? Zalae really looks to me like he's been avoiding some of those larger risks, taking into account his opponents and trying to predict what they're going to play, and that's totally reasonable. But we've seen other players adapting to their opponents and doing it very successfully. So the question for me is, what exactly is Zalae waiting for? Yeah, we're going to have to find out what he's waiting for. Now, when you start to compare these two, when you look at them up against each other, now, this is a matchup of two players on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that blowback, how they leverage their life total. Zalae has shown that he's going to use his life total as a resource over and over again in his matches, picking the best spots to leverage that life total. Now, Ek0p, he hasn't really been doing the same.
He's found some success in games of Warlock, but not much anywhere else. He knows how to play Warlock and play it well. Look for Ek0p to get back to his roots here and use that life total to beat Zalae.
Yeah, both of these guys, I mean, they need to get wins on the board tonight. Zalae, he said he didn't have the record he expected to have coming into this point, and, I can tell you the same is definitely true for Ek0p in that regard. We're getting to the halfway point here in HPL, and as players move closer to clinching those spots, the tension really builds with players who need significant amounts of wins. Zalae's been consistently looking to make his opponents adapt, and I think Ek0p, he should have been doing that a little bit more so far. We've seen him kind of go against that and really try to pick off his opponents. But with Zalae, I think he's the one who's more likely to stay in line. Is Ek0p now going to keep trying to target that, considering the success he's had with it so far, which is not too terribly much? If he does that, though, is that an opportunity for Zalae to really shift gears and try to punish him for targeting that spot? How these players tackle this match, it's tough. How do you adjust to someone who so far has been sticking to their guns in this sort of thing? Ek0p strategies, again, they look like they want to target players more specifically, where Zalae has looked like he wants to play the meta.
Yeah, now as you said, it's going to be really tough for him to win. Now, what do I think Zalae needs to do to win? I think he needs to be aggressive. You've always been playing power and combo strategies very often here in HPL, saying you only queue up the decks that you consider the best. Keep doing that and punish any slow starts here from Ek0p. Now, the second point, I think he needs to be flexible. You've been queuing up the same decks very often, as I said. Now, Ek0p might try to use that against you. He hasn't been afraid to queue up things like Priest before, trying to really get his opponent and really snipe them for what they're doing. So be prepared for that possibility. Have a game plan in mind if something like that happens.
Yeah, I think those are actually really excellent points against a player like Ek0p especially. And for me, Ek0p, the couple things I think he's got to do to win this game is I think, number one, he has to get in the driver's seat. And for that, probably going to look to aggression to get that done. Ek0p has been trying to control his opponents, and I think he's been trying to do it too much. Against a player like Zalae, who's going to be aggressive against you and try to take that initiative, you have to somehow get that out of his hands. If you can do that, that's your big play to get a window of opportunity and start to push it to Zalae. And the second one is, man, he's got to play Warlock. What was that win percentage again he had?
Like 68%.
He's got over 68% win percentage lifetime with Warlock in his games. He has to be playing this more. If you have this big of a strength, you cannot ignore that. I don't care if your opponents are going to target you every single time. Play Warlock until you cannot play it anymore.
You get a little fired up about that. I like that.
He needs to play Warlock.
All right, so who do you think is going to win tonight? For me, I've got to go with Zalae. Now, I just believe that Zalae has been playing a little bit better here so far in HPL. You can see it in his record, and he seemed a little more fired up in his last game. He said his record wasn't where he wanted it to be, and you can see him kind of look to take that out on his opponent. And again, Ek0p still struggling to find the right strategy for him here in HPL. I got to go with Zalae.
I think Ek0p's going to give him a run for his money, but I have to totally agree with you. I have to go with Zalae in this one as well. The fact that he always consistently studies his game and is looking to improve, regardless of how small of a position that is, when he looks at that 3-3 record, he's very unsatisfied with that sort of result, and I fully expect him to put in the time and the study to get that done. Not that Ek0p is not doing that, but I think Zalae so far has been doing it better.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be, Zalae picked from both of us, but again, I think it's going to be very, very close. And if Ek0p starts playing a lot of Warlock here tonight, he can give Zalae a pretty big problem. Zalae's been playing a lot of Grim Patron, and Handlock matches up pretty well there.
I would have to say so as well. We've been seeing it do well in the past, and it's widely considered one of the best ways to tackle that Grim Patron deck. How have you been tackling that Grim Patron deck, by the way? We've been seeing a ton of it, and every single time I play on ranked play, I see that deck over and over again, and oftentimes I'm playing it too. So get out there on Twitter, use that hashtag HPL, let us know exactly what you expect to see in this match. How would you like to see these players win, and who do you want to see win this game? You can also get on Facebook, like and comment over there, and we'll check them out pretty soon.
Nathan has gold Grim Patrons, by the way. He plays it quite a bit.
I do have gold Grim Patrons. We're going to see if Zalae's got some gold Grim Patrons. Maybe Ek0p does as well. Game 1 is about to get underway with Ek0p and Zalae.
And it looks like Zalae is going to be aggressive as usual. We see him be aggressive with almost every single deck that he brings, even the mid-range combo strategy ones. He's always looking to kill you.
Yeah, it seems to, that's a really big talking point just for Hearthstone in general. You look at other TCGs, aggression is a very good thing to have. But Hearthstone being completely turn-based, where there's, the interaction is a proactive interaction. You have to anticipate what your opponents are going to be doing. Aggression usually is actually a form of control in that regard, because it puts your opponents in spots where they don't have a ton of good options.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to actually control people here in Hearthstone, because as you said, it's a turn-based game where only one player is doing anything. It's hard to always have exactly the right answer. And look what Ek0p is playing.
Yeah, Ek0p is actually playing Warlock, and I love to see it. But Zalae, you know, he understands that this is such a strong talking point for Ek0p. He wants to be aggressive early on and try to punish him for having some of these slower starts. But look at this hand. It is not a slow start whatsoever.
Oh,
He's got turn one Void Caller and turn one Void Walker, and even a Flame if he wants to add to this. And I have to believe he's going to start applying a pressure right away.
Oh yeah, these guys are going to be punching each other back and forth early and often in this game here. And I love this deck choice from Ek0p. This is one of my favorite decks right now.
Yeah, Zalae, though, no shortage of ways to really answer what's going on here. You know, Abusive Sergeant and Worgen Infiltrator, both of these will challenge the Flame Imp, and the Abusive Sergeant's going to give this Worgen Infiltrator 4 power. It can run straight over that Void Walker.
Yeah, he can do a couple of different things too as well. He could even use Quick Shot if he wants to just control all of Ek0p's board. If he wants to go, you know, a long route from there, he could even actually just play Explosive Trap and pass, but that isn't like the best thing he could possibly do in this turn.
Explosive Trap pass is going to open him up to something like Nerubian Egg as well, but he will have Abusive Sergeant to deal with that afterwards, so maybe that's something he actually is considering. But you know, he will have to chew through that back half of that, or the back third rather, of that Void Walker first. So I expect him to use Abusive Sergeant and Worgen Infiltrator.
Yeah, he's going to take his time. You'll see this a lot from Zalae. He almost never plays his turns very quickly unless you're dead. I mean, if Zalae does something very, very fast, you're probably dead. So,
yeah, that's the last thing you want to see from a methodical player is him blister through his turn. You're like, okay, he's thinking, maybe I have him on the back foot, and then he just goes into his turn and blasts all his cards out. You're like, no, don't act fast. That's terrible for me. Is going to go with 2/2/1s. And Ek0p has a Knife Juggler out of this, but that's going to get challenged again by these 2/1s. I think he's got to go with Nerubian Egg here. And, you know, short of being able to stifle this board pressure, things may actually start to get out of control for him.
Yeah. Now, for this Warlock deck, there are a lot of aggressive parts to it. You have cards like Flame Imp and Knife Juggler and Nerubian Egg, but this isn't actually, you know, your typical, like, it doesn't play out like Face Hunter. You're not trying to kill them on turn 4 or 5. I mean, it's great if you do, don't get me wrong, you know, you'll take a win any way you can get it, but this deck is actually looking to scale turn by turn and get incremental value from its minions and then outclass you from there. Cards like Nerubian Egg, paired up with like Abusive Sergeant, are insane when you get to trade for a minion and then get a 4/4 left over with the Abusive Sergeant as well.
Yeah, even stuff like Power Overwhelming or Defender of Argus. A lot of tools that work synergistically with this deck. That's really right up Ek0p's alley. You know, the fact that he understands when to really utilize those things to full effect when he has those options. I love seeing this kind of choice from him.
Yeah, it's also a very difficult deck to play against. You know, every time they have a Nerubian Egg sitting in play, you have to think about every turn, you know, what do I do if they have Abusive Sergeant? What do I do if they have Power Overwhelming? How do I play around these spots? Those are always very interesting spots to see, and sometimes you'll see the players like Zalae, he's going to choose very early how he's going to do this, and it looks like he's just going to ignore it for the rest of the game, and I think that's probably his best bet.
Yeah, I mean, this situation's got to get a little bit dicey for Ek0p now. That Imp Gang boss, a fantastic draw
for him,
by the way. But now with Zalae, you know, he's initiated a race at this point. He said, have your Flame Imp.
Yeah.
He pushed 4 damage instead of trading off with the Flame Imp. What kind of message does that send to Ek0p?
Well, you have to know that Zalae's going to be aggressive. He has Worgen Infiltrator, so you know that he's facing now. The reason you see Ek0p actually attack with the Flame Imp here, and now the more I think about it, I don't hate it, is because he's going to have Knife Juggler and Nerubian Egg next turn along with Imp Master, so he's going to get to throw a lot of knives. He's going to get to juggle a few times and help pick off these 2/1s. He's okay with taking 4 more damage this turn from these minions, and then he can race from there, because the thing about this Warlock deck is it comes out a little bit slower than the aggressive decks, but it comes out a little bit better every turn, so it starts to scale. It's a lot like what Jab does with all of his mid-range decks. He's a little bit slower than you, but he's always bigger and better.
Yeah, but something else that Ek0p has to fear in this situation, though, is something like Unleash the Hounds. I mean, at this point, he's taking a lot of damage, and Zalae's just going to quick shot him and hero power. Ek0p's down to 12.
Yeah, Zalae understands who he is here. This is what you signed up for when you queue up something like Face Hunter. You're going to the face. You're not controlling this board. If Ek0p doesn't want to attack your minions, great. You know what I mean? Just awesome. That's great. Let's get in extra damage to this Worgen Infiltrator. It's gotten at least 4 damage. This Abusive Sergeant's gotten in even more. This is an amazing spot for Zalae here. I mean, it's going to be bad now that all these juggles are happening, but, you know, Ek0p's already at 12. You know, and he's trying to make these explosive traps good. See, the bad part is Zalae's already drawn 2 of his explosive traps here. Ek0p has 2 Nerubian Eggs in play. So these cards are not very good, but Zalae wants to get some kind of value off of Wolf Rider. Great draw here.
I mean, at this point, you know, we talked about how the explosive traps aren't very good, but just the fact that they're going to wipe out 6, 7, 8, 9 points of damage he would take next turn, and also deal 2 points of damage. That's
like going to be good going forward. He had to make them good, is what I'm saying. He had to play the game in this way to make them good.
Exactly. That is the beauty of, you know, seeing someone play a strategy like this and then also continue to follow through on that. It was very easy easy for him to trade one of these 2-1s into a flame whip. He didn't do that. HPL, he doesn't want to trade his 3-2 down into a 2-1. He's kind of funneled into that position where he has to take initiative with that. Zalae is now at a spot where he can start punishing HPL for doing that. This is the last place that HPL wanted to be.
Not to mention when he's super aggressive, you get to take away HPL's hero power. Like, I seriously doubt he'll ever get to activate it this game unless he's in dire straits. Like, he just needs to activate it to find that last card one turn to kill you, or, you know, he's like, oh, I'm probably dead anyway, gonna activate. But yeah, you're seeing Zalae just play great here in this matchup. You know, the onus is on HPL to trade here. When you're playing Pace Hunter, you make them trade with you.
Yeah, not even going to play Explosive Trap here, just going to get in the Arcane Golem damage as he can. And HPL, he does not have a way to deal 20 points of damage here. And if he doesn't deal 20 points of damage, it's looking like he's basically dead.
Yeah, he's going to be basically dead here because he's not going to actually be able to gain life once he's down to the Explosive Trap range. Plus, you know, you're going to have the hero power from Zalae as well, taking you down every single turn from here.
No way to taunt up, no way to heal himself right now.
Yeah, he doesn't have a Defender of Argus.
Just like you said, his hero power is effectively dead at this point. You know, Zalae doesn't have lethal in hand right now, but it's very easy.
I mean, he practically has lethal in hand.
He practically does, but, you know, HPL, he does have 2 turns to really push through all this damage. But the fact that Zalae has waited to play this Explosive Trap, it means that HPL's not going to get in those 2 attacks with the Nerubians on that later stage of the game. Yeah. He's really occupying a lot of space and making sure that he's forcing HPL into making these kinds of uncomfortable decisions.
Yeah, and now I can understand HPL's hesitancy earlier to trade, to not trade, I'm sorry, his Flame Whip into one of the 2-1s from Zalae there into an Abusive Sergeant and a Worgen Infiltrator, but I feel had he done that, he'd be more in this game.
Wow, I actually really like this play from HPL too. You know, he does have to take a little bit of a gamble here to try to get things done, but now that he's got this extra 4 points of pressure, there is a chance that Zalae can lose this game.
Yeah, if Zalae doesn't have something to stop him, he has lethal on board. If he didn't have a way to deal 6 this turn and or stop what HPL's doing, HPL can even get through a Taunter this turn as well and generally be able to finish this game off.
So we're going to have to see. I mean, I imagine Explosive Trap has got to come down at this point. Just what other play do you have? It's just Explosive Trap, hero power. Do you play the Knife Juggler? Do you just wait? Does it even matter if you play it?
I mean, there's a chance he plays it just to kind of distract HPL, you know, to like just put something in play. You know, like I have this Knife Juggler here, but...
Oh, geez.
Is that lethal?
It's actually, one of the reasons it's not lethal is because HPL's board is actually full right now.
Well, he's going to lose some minions when he attacks, though.
Well, here's the thing, is that with this Imp Gang boss, normally it would summon a minion when all the damage gets dealt, and that juggle would actually go to face for 1. But in this position, his board is full, so he can't get that one juggle he needs to push through that last point of damage. This is such a disaster for HPL in this spot. You know, he's going to go for it, and he's going to get some bad news here. I'm pretty sure you don't see a summon, and thus you don't see a juggle. Yep, no summon, no juggle. 4 points of damage. HPL is 1 damage off lethal here. He's going to fall to Zalae in game 1. Wow. So brutal. Just 1 damage away, and you can see it here. Every single point of damage always matters. And honestly, HPL got the maximum this game.
Yeah, HPL got the maximum. You saw him actually push early when I said, I think I would have liked to see a trade out of him, just because if he has those extra 4 points of health this game, there's a chance he wins from that point.
Yeah, I think there is a chance he wins, but honestly, I like to see him push for that damage there. I think that the fact that he didn't trade was one of the biggest things he had going for him. You know, again, he was 1 damage off of lethal. If he finds that extra damage somewhere else, there's a very good chance he ends up winning that game. But Zalae, pressure is just too much. Found a way to make his Explosive Trap so good versus HPL. There was actually no way he could get in that extra point of damage. The fact that he let the board fill up actually won him the game.
Yeah, it looked a little unlucky at first that he drew 2 Explosive Traps against 2 Nerubian eggs, but they actually ended up being pretty good because Zalae played in a way to make them good. Sometimes when you're dealt kind of a crappy hand, you got to play your way out of it and make it good.
Yeah, make the best use of your resources. That's really one of the ways that you win at Hearthstone. You know, don't look at the things you can't control. Look at the things you can control and make the best use of them. If you guys want to see how they made the best use of them, you can head over to pvplive.net and see it for yourself. The full stats breakdowns, the recaps of this game, how they played their strategies, it's all available on their website as well as their competitive histories. So these guys are making changes to their decks now. That's the HPL format. They can play whatever they want at any time. And when we come back, we're going to be getting into game number 2. Don't go anywhere, guys. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.